we can do it that way. Ah, here we are.
Hey,
Alex, how are you tonight?
I'm doing very well. It's nice to see you, Rodney.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So, Alex, I was just talking about how. Let me see if I can close out this screen. Okay, we'll leave it back there. Anyway, I was discussing how you and I met about a year ago. You were doing a production of The Sisters downtown. Now, before we get into some of the specifics of that production and what you're doing now, I just wanted to get into a little bit about you, Alex. I know your history. You're a very bright guy. You're a Harvard grad, correct?
Correct. Yes, I got my master, received my master's at Harvard in 2017.
Okay, all right. And what was your area of expertise? What did you get your major or your graduate degree in?
Theater at large. I specialized and spent most of my time working on Shakespeare, though.
Okay, so that in itself is proof positive. We have a very sharp mind here joining us. We don't have an overabundance, Alex, of Harvard graduates who graduated with a degree in theater and Shakespeare. So we're very happy that you're part of the scene. And when I saw it, I first got made aware of your company with there was like a teaser that you put online, like a little short clip, and you shared that clip with me. Unfortunately, I don't have the option to share that here, but and it was for The Sisters, and at the time I think it was in its formative stages, and it was a very evocative, very moody clip of you as I guess a Shakespeare, Macbeth stand-in in the forest with the three witches. And then from there, you went into, from what I recall of our conversation, a very lengthy rehearsal period for the stage production. So why don't you walk us through the process of how you decided to, after graduating Harvard and you came into the New York scene, how that all got started and what was the process of getting rolling in the scene here in New York?
Yeah, it's actually a pretty interesting story, at least to me. Once I graduated, I was acting full time. I was going on 5 to 8 auditions a week, really, really pushing it. And I kept finding that I wasn't necessarily enjoying all the roles that I was going out for. So I thought to myself, well, there's got to be something else. I ended up going that exact night that I had that thought to see a friend's live performance. She's a DJ and a singer. And I was just blown away by her work. And it spurred this idea for me to create she was mixing live on stage. So it spurred this idea of, well, why not do a show about the sisters, the three sisters from Macbeth, mixing their cauldron with music. And it spurred from that. So I ended up breaking down Macbeth as best as I could, and including 13 other Shakespeare plays in this, splicing them together to create what we have as the sisters now. Everything from a 2-month development process with SoHo Shakespeare Company all the way through to our 6 weeks of rehearsal and then 3 weeks of performance downtown.
And that was a very interesting production for me, Alex, because the mood of your of the teaser that you put online had a very sinister. It had like almost like a film noir kind of vibe to it. And then your production, it had a very the same kind of very evocative music, very that eerie kind of feeling to it. A lot of great scenic design. The presentational style was something different than I was anticipating. It was, as you say, you spliced in a lot of stuff, and it was the basic story of Macbeth, but it had almost like a Dadaist quality where it was like circling back and repeating. It was nonlinear, and there was a lot of repeating, doubling, tripling of lines, switching of characters. So, talk to us about that. Is that for you, your style as an artistic director, to that kind of Wooster Group type pastiche style, or is that just limited to this production?
I think that that's probably fair to say that that's my style as a creator, a theater maker. I spent when I was at Harvard, I spent 3 months in Moscow with the Moscow Art Theater. So I was exposed to some extraordinary avant-garde experimental art, and that really made an impression on me. So when I started writing this, putting this piece together, I should say, I had major influences from the theater that I saw in Moscow, and also Strindberg. Strindberg has always weighed heavily on me. Absurdism of every kind. But Strindberg's dream play, for me, this play needed to be a dream. It's Macbeth is Shakespeare's fastest play. It's like a boulder running down a hill as fast as humanly possible. So I wanted to make that quality match with a Strindberg-esque and a Moscow Art Theater-esque dream quality. So the whole thing should feel like a dream with its repetitions.
That's really exciting. And there have been some other uh, artistic directors around town, or guys who are kind of like auteur, shall we call them, directors who have a very distinct style. You have your Richard Maxwell, and you have a couple other guys who have that very distinct style around town. Who have approached Shakespeare, and some people like it and some people don't. It's a matter of taste. But I think you have a very unique take on it, and with that kind of that style that you're approaching with, I've seen that applied more so to contemporary works or modern works. I haven't seen it so much with some of the classics in Shakespeare. So that was a real interesting thing for me. What was the audience reaction to that? I think the night I came, it was a sold out house. How was your attendance? How was the reaction to that production?
It was fantastic. I mean, when you're starting up a company, when you're starting off with a new production, especially something that you've created, you're going to get an outpouring of love from your community. I've been in New York for over 10 years now, um, in the theater scene, so we have a great network, and we had so many sold out shows, packed houses. My grandmother even showed up with 10 of her friends from her community, and she's 93 years old, so
That's
everybody turned
fantastic.
up for the show.
That's fantastic. And before we get into what's happening now, after that show closed, did you have plans for another stage production before this all went down, or no?
Yes, yeah, we have. We started planning our season very quickly after that. After the Sisters closed, we had plans for which we accomplished some of it. We did a workshop of Helen Macmillan's Mary Rose, or The Woman Who Died Twice, which is a J.M. Barrie adaptation that she wrote. So we successfully finished that workshop, and we were going to produce that in the 2020-2021 season. I have been hard at work on my next adaptation, Le Tartuffe Orange, which is an adaptation of Tartuffe, means the orange hypocrite. I'll leave that to everyone's imagination for now. I've recently started recruiting some other writers to help me with this project as well. So while we may not get to do it in October before the election as we hoped, it will come shortly after that when we're all allowed back in theaters together.
I don't think you have to be a Harvard graduate to read between the lines there and figure out what that's about. Okay, so as we all know, the coronavirus pandemic hit, theaters closed, companies canceled productions, filming of TV and film production stopped in many cases. Broadway shut down for the first time in I don't know how many decades. So the city, in terms of its artistic scene, is in many ways at a standstill. But in that light, a lot of people like yourself have started to offer a great deal of exciting content online. And that's the majority of what I wanted to talk to you about tonight, Alex, is that you guys are really offering a lot of content on your web offerings, whether it's on Zoom or on your website. So talk to us about what all you are offering with the Soho Shakespeare Company, and what that process has been like for you.
Yeah, we jumped in head first. As soon as we realized that everything was shutting, the bars started closing down, the restaurants started closing down, and we knew immediately that the theater was not going to be able to sustain itself during this time. So an enormous shout out to my entire team at Soho Shakespeare Company: Laura Yumi Snell, Jesse Charles Friedman, Antonio Davis, and Hallie Smythe. We got together and we just started creating. The first thing that we did was we needed to figure out a way to help artists right now. So we created the SDAA, which is the Social Distance Artists Alliance. We have a database on our website now. We're collecting artists' information about other skills that they have aside from their immediate discipline, acting. Um, we have plenty of artists who are great copywriters, who are great musicians, graphic designers. And we said we can help people make money off of this because other companies still need that kind of work. So we put that together and launched that and had really great success. Lots and lots of submissions for that. And we said, all right, well, how are we going to present theater? We have so many projects in mind. And then it occurred to us as a group, we said, well, realistically, we can do a lot more theater now that it's all online. let's jump onto Zoom. Let's jump onto the platform on Facebook Live and start presenting. So we created the program, which we call Play Online. And bi-weekly, we're presenting a show. The first show was My Sisters. The second was Mary Rose by Helen Macmillan. And we're getting ready to present The Tempest, starring Broadway actor Jack Weatherall, which will be on the 28th.
Wow. And I think he's one of your inspirations, if I recall, one of your mentors, shall we say, Jack
Yeah.
Weatherall. Now, when you're saying that you're presenting these online, is it something that is pre-recorded? That's something that has been done on stage, like your stage production, and you're presenting that online for view, or is it something where you're taking the actors from that production and recreating it in the Zoom environment?
Yeah, we're doing this all live, live streaming to Facebook, and we have a couple of rehearsals beforehand, and then we get our actors together and we say, hey, there may be technical difficulties. This is a brand new medium for all of us, but let's do it. We have some great Zoom backgrounds, so we create sets. A little bit of costuming, a little bit of makeup really goes a long way, especially when you have such extraordinary actors on your side.
That's great. Now, something I was also very impressed with, beyond your theatrical presentations, is your offerings in terms of coaching, teaching. And I sat in about a month or so ago on one of the monologue coaching sessions. And talk to us about that. Talk to us about the teaching initiatives you guys have.
Yeah, again, it stemmed from this feeling of gratitude for all of the theater makers that have influenced us over the years, and this need to give back. We're a nonprofit organization, after all. We're here to serve the people. So we said we have to offer free classes. All of the artists that we know aren't getting paid right now. We have to give something to them. So yeah, we started a monologue gym, which is Shakespeare based. 2 hours. We work with 10 students twice a week on Saturdays and Wednesdays. We're going to be switching to just Saturdays soon. And it's really been an extraordinary turnout. Once we got the ball rolling with this, we now have upwards of 30 people. So that means 10 people are working and roughly 20 people are watching just to get these lessons, because our action-based imaging technique that we created from our teachers, we put together a compilation from our teachers at Harvard. We combined all these techniques into our action-based imaging technique, and it's really unique. It's a really unique technique that a lot of students are finding extremely useful.
Now, if you tell me, I promise I won't tell anyone. What's your action-based imaging technique about?
The action-based, the basis of it is operative language. Lots of times we're taught Shakespeare by following scansion, by following the iambic pentameter, the meter. Lots of actors are taught that it's appropriate to take a break at the end of each line. For us, it's about figuring out what the complete thought is and what are the most operative words in that thought. Oftentimes we hear performers get on stage for Hamlet, and this is my favorite example. For Hamlet, there's no necessarily wrong way to do it. We just think that this is a more clear way for the audience to understand it. The line, to be or not to be, often we hear to be or not to be, and we lose the second half of this. When in reality, I think it's much more clear for the audience if they hear to be or not to be. That is the question. They're getting these
Right.
these action verbs that bring these storytelling words to life.
Right, and that's correct. It's what I liked about what you're talking about right now. What I was observing with Jesse Charles Friedman, is that his name?
Yes.
When I sat in on the class, is that it's a combination. You know, a lot of times when I've sat in on or I've worked with different coaches or teachers or whomever, master class, this, whatever the case is. A lot of times when people are teaching Shakespeare, there is, I'd say, an overemphasis on some of the technical aspects of it. Yes, you have to have your iambic pentameter. Yes, you have to have your scansion, but it cannot be solely a mechanical exercise. There has to be life in it. And I thought you guys did a really nice job of integrating all those together with this technique you're talking about, where it's, yes, you're honoring the language, you're honoring the feet, and the whole thing, but you're also emphasizing the action, you're emphasizing the thought, the complete thought, not just the line break. You're emphasizing the way it all goes through. So you guys, I think you're doing a really great job. Now, how did you assemble your team? Jesse and I think Laura. Is that your other colleague?
Yeah, Laura Yumi Snell. Laura is our executive director. Jesse is our director of education. Um, we all went to school together. I was a year ahead of them at Harvard. Um, and when it came down to Laura was in The Sisters. She played one of the sisters for me. And we started discussing, this is going to be interesting. We're building this. I'm building this company. I need somebody else who I can trust, somebody else who I can rely on, who is intelligent and passionate and ambition driven. And it was just obvious that that was Laura. I asked her to join the company. She didn't blink. She just said yes and came on. It was her recommendation. And I thank her all the time. It was her recommendation to bring on
All right.
Jesse Charles Friedman as our
Mm-hmm.
director of education, and that was an extraordinary thing to do. He has so much experience teaching. So
Well, something that I was really taken by with Jesse Charles Friedman's style as a teacher is that a lot of times acting teachers, whatever type of acting it is, whether Shakespeare, whatever, a lot of time acting teachers are very uh, aggressive with how passionate they are. And Jesse, my God, my goodness, I sat through that whole 2 hours, and I don't think he raised his voice once. He's so calm and very, very mellow. And for actors, especially the actors that I saw on that particular occasion, it was, for the most part, it was, shall we say, less experienced actors who were newer to the text or to approaching Shakespeare. For them, the if you have somebody that kind of barks and no, you're doing it wrong, or no, you got to do it this way, they get totally inhibited and afraid, and they get closed off to what they're doing. So the fact that he's so uh, compassionate in the way he approaches it, I think is really, really special. So I think you guys have a really wonderful teaching program you're offering there. So you've got your stage productions that are being transformed into Zoom productions. You've got your monologue gym, and you've got the SDAA. Is that right?
correct. Yep.
And is there a third offering, or am I asking you to,
No, no,
or
we're
fourth
we're
offering?
pumping out as much content and as much content as we possibly can for people right now. In Next month, we'll be launching our paid classes. We're starting a 4-week program, which will be a Shakespeare 201 intensive. We'll be working with actors to help develop their audition technique, especially now that auditions are going to be happening online for quite some time. So it's really it's got a lot of self-tape work in it. And of course, our action-based imaging technique to really dive deep. What you saw in our monologue gym was truly just a surface of how deep we can get with this work and how connected we can get with this work. So we're going to start offering that in 4-week courses for people.
That's fantastic. All right. So, Alex, if any of the people who are joining us here tonight, or when we put this online later on for people to view again, assuming that you and I secretly behind the scenes got our AV engineering worked out and we actually got this recorded, if anyone wants to check out the Soho Shakespeare Company and all the wonderful things you're offering, how can they find you?
Visit us at www.sohoshakes.com or find us on Instagram and Facebook at Soho Shakes.
All right, Alex, it's a pleasure chatting with you. I'm happy we were able to make this happen. Best of luck to you and the whole crew. You guys are doing a lot of great work, and I hope we chat again soon.
Thank you, Rodney. Take care.
All right, take care. Okay, let's close out Alex.